everybody, and welcome to the Positively Altered podcast. I am your host, Dr. Cindy Howard. I am a chiropractic internist and nutritionist, and even more importantly, somebody who wants to bring you some great information, usually with a health spin and absolutely no filter. So today, I have a very important question for you. Have you been through anything difficult in your life? That pause was for you to say yes. And the second part of that question is, how did you deal with it? Is it as simple as always laying on the couch, spreading all the information about your parents and how they failed you? Or are there some techniques out there that can be even more powerful than just couch talking? So stay tuned. I can't wait to introduce you to my guest who's going to give us some other options.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? Welcome back. I'm so glad you decided to join us today. My guest is Wendy Branchfield, and besides being an absolutely fabulous human being, she practices a technique called EFT, or Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's very interesting because as much as I've utilized it personally, and I refer quite a few people to her for this technique, I actually still have difficulty explaining exactly what it is. So Wendy, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy because I need you in very simple terms to explain to everybody what exactly is Emotional Freedom Technique.
Emotional Freedom Technique is an holistic healing modality that borrows from Eastern philosophy of acupuncture, which works with the chi system, and the Western philosophy of talk therapy. So the amygdala is the part of the brain that holds on to emotion, fight, flight, freeze, or faint response. As we grow, we have emotional trauma. And it doesn't have to be, I went to war to be trauma. It can be something as simple as my family said I was chubby when I was 9. And that can literally set a lifelong precedent of never being able to carry a decent weight, because between birth and 7, 8, or 9, our gorgeous brain is a yes machine. There is no discernment properties yet That's why children can learn like 5 languages by the time they're 10 years old, because the brains are on hyperspeed. They're just yes machines. So things that are subconscious that we've carried with us our whole lives, we carry within our cellular memory. There are like trillions of cells in the human body, and each one of them has a little brain. Your body holds onto that stuff. And if I've said this once, I've said it 1,000, 1,000,000 times. Quantumly speaking, yeah, EFT is a little weird and a little woo-woo, right? But quantumly speaking, like attracts like. Thoughts become things. Energy is everything. Perception is key. One man looks at the world and sees misery and hate. Another man looks at the world and sees love and possibility. Same world. What affects one affects all. And that goes right along with, like, if you have a bad left ankle, you're going to have a bad right knee, wonky left hip, funky right shoulder. That's just the way it is. Like attracts like. And when we are going through an entire lifetime of traumas, somebody at work was snotty to me and I said nothing. I held that in. The neuroplasticity in our brain holds on to that, and it makes grooves in our brain so that the next time somebody at work says something, whether they meant it or not, you're on automatic pilot. Bazinga. You go right to, well, see, everybody's mean to me. And it's just crazy what the body holds on to. The like attracts like thing. Let me give you one quick example. Throughout a 25-year career doing this, it is not a coincidence that men and women who have been assaulted have medical issues below the belt. And it's not because of the assault. It's because of the emotional trauma held within their first and second chakra. And EFT literally interrupts your neurological system so that you aren't on automatic pilot with that trauma over and over and over again. It actually changes the neuroplasticity in your brain. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's how it works.
It's a great answer. And it makes me think back, when I was a young child and my mother used to cook most of our dinners and I never wanted to finish what was on the plate. And she would say to me, you have to finish what you're eating because there's children starving in Europe. And my
Right.
smart ass answer would be, well, then pack up the food and send it to Europe because I'm not hungry. And, after I got the look of like, you shouldn't have opened your mouth that way, it was very disrespectful, I was told to finish what was on my plate. So my neuroplasticity, my wiring, right now as a grown adult plus a decade or two, has really taught me how to potentially overeat, right? Like I finish everything that's on my
Right.
plate, whether I'm hungry or not. How much, and that seems obvious to me, right? Like I can trace back that messaging as to why I've made choices as an adult. But what do you find from a trauma aspect for the patients or people that you work with where it isn't that obvious? Like, what if that really wasn't my trigger for overeating? What if there's really something deeper rooted? How do we get to that to make sure we really understand the mechanism that sets us there?
Thank you. That's such a good question. Okay, I'm going to give you an example from a client of mine. I have her full permission. I am not using her name. 24 years old, sexually assaulted, waitress in college. Okay. It happened. She couldn't touch metal. Couldn't touch metal. Couldn't touch her car keys, so she couldn't drive. Couldn't eat with anything but plastic. Couldn't open the door handle. So she had to quit college, quit her job as a server, as a waitress, move back home with her parents. Her parents gave her talk therapy. In her words, not mine, all I did was bitch and moan and relive that pain over and over and over again. Nothing changed. She went to a physician and, oh, you're depressed, so here, have some pills. That didn't help her either. So finally, her parents heard about me through a friend of a friend. They sent her to me. Now, I want you to think of any trauma, not just her sexual assault, as the wheel of a bicycle, okay? One spoke of that wheel is one aspect of that entire issue. Okay. So we worked on fear, anger, shame, what it felt like, what he sounded like, what he tasted like, the noises she made, what the ground felt like. And I mean, it's some pretty hairy stuff, right? But we worked on them one at a time. And EFT lets the person with whom I am working be in control. So if the phrase was, I was dragged behind the garage and I was so afraid when I was sexually assaulted, she would close her eyes and rate that fear in her body right now, not then. And it was a 10. Tears are always a 10. So 1 being small, 10 being big. We do a round of tapping on the face and body, here and here and here. We do a round of tapping, saying the truth. I was so afraid. I was so afraid. We rate it again. Then we do a round of release. And it sounds silly that how can that work? But we're literally interrupting the electrical meridian process of her reliving that trauma. Because you and I are just one big chemical. You know what love is? Love is a protein. Proven fact. Love is a protein. I mean, how freaking cool is that, right? So each aspect, we got to each aspect. And then she said, I'm thinking about grade school. Why is grade school coming up? And I said, what happened to you in grade school that made you feel afraid or ashamed or any of those other things that we had already worked on? And you could literally, ooh, I've got goosebumps. You could literally see a dissertation appear on this girl's face. She got it. It was amazing. When she was little, she had ghastly teeth. I mean, her words, not mine. Kids said I could eat corn through a knothole. I mean, how mean is that? They tortured this. It's like Lord of the Flies grade school. I mean, I'm telling you. Seriously. And they were horrible to this child. She never got picked for the team, never got to go to a birthday party, blah, blah, blah. She got braces. Well, then she grows up and gets the braces off, and she's the pretty girl. Boys are actually interested in her. Girls that snubbed her wanted her to be their friend now. Long story short, too late, I know. Metal from being hit in the face during the assault broke her teeth off. They were like jaggedy. And that visual trauma of being, in her mind, that ugly little girl, all that trauma through grade school that she came home crying every day, all of that was never healed. Shoo! Straight to the surface. And she couldn't, because of the metal in the necklace or his ring, she couldn't touch metal. Boy, oh boy, did we work on that one. And when we did, she could eat with a fork. She could touch her keys. She could go back to college and be a server, and she did. Now, that makes no sense to the adult brain. That makes zero sense. But to all of that unhealed trauma as a child, that's how it manifested for her. It doesn't have to make sense to our adult brain. The amygdala holds onto that shit to keep us safe. It's a survival mechanism, and it's automatic. We don't go, oh, okay, I'm a caveman. There's berries over here by this tree. Ooh, here comes the saber-toothed tiger. Okay, oxygen, start pumping. No, we see that saber-toothed tiger. We run. It's automatic. And every cell in our body stores that memory.
Yeah, for those of you that are just listening and not watching, just to let you know, when Wendy was describing some of the tapping, she was utilizing points on the face and the upper trunk of the body for the most part that are associated with different acupuncture points. You know, it's interesting to me, Wendy, because I think about and tell me if this makes sense to you. It's almost like with any sort of trauma, and it really could even start in utero, right? Like with the stress that we feel,
Absolutely.
right, from being carried.
100%.
It sounds to me almost like here's because amygdala is a really big word for a lot of people, even me, and I actually learned that in school, so I actually know what that word is. But in simple terms, if I was going to explain this, it's almost like we have an event that's not necessarily healthy or beneficial, and we compartmentalize it to put it into a box, but we don't really
Yes.
put that box away, right? That box sort of has the
Yes.
lid open, right? And
Yes.
the little jack in the box sometimes gets popped out based on if you turn that crank too tight, right? And now all of a sudden it rears its ugly head, and that trauma we relive through other events. And does it make sense to actually say that then sometimes that trauma can actually get exacerbated time after time again to a point where then we actually aren't functioning through it and we can become truly debilitated where we're,
100%. This girl was
yeah, okay.
completely debilitated. And the thing is, the amygdala holds on to it so that it says, remember, caveman, don't go by that tree for the berries. You'll die. Your system literally feels like you're going to die. And it's just helping you. It's trying to help you survive. And it's automatic. We don't even know it's happening. That's why sometimes we react really poorly and we're like, that was out of line. Where did that come from? Guaranteed. It's from some unhealed trauma. And everybody does it. Everybody does it. You don't have to be assaulted to
How do
experience
we
this.
keep that at bay, Wendy? So for example, we go through treatment, right? We go through this whole protocol. I always say it's a combination of talk therapy with acupuncture points. That's how I describe it. And you do it
Yes.
much more eloquently than I do. But say we have a session and I'm able to downplay that significance. So what was a 10 for me, in trauma is now a 0, right? And I
Yep.
feel really good. And I walk out of the session and I'm like, I've got this, right? My trauma is now it's in the box, the lid is closed, there's no jack in the box. How do I keep it there? So where does EFT come into play in terms of a short term versus a long term therapy, and where is that important to understand that line? Because I know too, like, listen, 55 years on this earth, and yeah, I told everybody how old I am now, but 55 years on this earth, I relive some of those things, right, that were traumatic that I
Yeah.
was able to put away for a period of time. So how do we utilize this technique to I guess, control, right, all the good that we've done through the sessions?
Yeah. EFT can completely be, that's the beauty of it. It can be done by the participant. People have said, yeah, but I don't do it as well as you do. Of course you don't. I do it for a living. I'm not an artist. I'm not Van Gogh. You know what I mean? So you have to be conscious. People can tap, tap, tap away. And if they simply are not conscious of how they live their lives, what the script in their head that is on automatic pilot is playing over and over, yes, you will have the short-term benefit. But if you don't get really conscious and intentional with what you think when you're not thinking, how you react. Oh, I behaved badly there. What did that remind me of? Look, I'm 60 years old. I've been doing this for 25 years. I tap today. Okay. I work with myself every single day because we grow. We're evolutionary human beings. We're not just the same person. And we have a lifetime of stuff. So being really intentional, getting conscious is the number one key. It's like if you go to a personal trainer, 3, 6 months, a year, you get to your goal and then you stop. What's going to happen? We have to pay attention to ourselves, pay attention, make it conscious. And that's the key.
So how do you work through, because I can see it now, right? The people, actually, let me backtrack, right? Growing up, it seemed like the only people that ever went to therapy were those that were sexually assaulted, children of alcoholics or an alcoholic themselves, right? It had to be something pretty big, would seem like pretty big or pretty major to go into therapy, right? So how do we remove, or how do you remove that stigma of like, I, and I almost say I think everybody should have a therapist. We all need tools, right? In,
I
in
agree.
some way to get through life. So how do we look at this from a way where maybe it is something that detrimental and that scary that we've been through, but maybe none of us have those really what we perceive, right, as significant experiences. How do we remove that stigma of I don't need a therapist for any reason because I'm just fine, and or recognizing that even small traumas that may not be as obvious are really important to also address? And I guess I asked you two
And,
loaded questions there.
and that's okay. And I do disagree with one statement. We all have traumas. You know how you figure it out? Are my relationships my highest goal? Is my physical health? And of course, people want to look cute naked. Is that where I want it to be? Are my finances in order? Those three things, baby. Are your relationships the way you want them? Is your physical health, sexual health, where you want it to be? And are you able to live the life that you want to live? If you answer no, you've got stuff to work on, plain and simple. And I think it's a brave person. People tell me things that horror movies are not made of. And I mean this. Horror movies.
So Wendy, we were joking before we started recording that because you see everybody on this from the waist up that I wasn't wearing any pants. But I guess, maybe I need another session of EFT because if I felt confident enough, I wouldn't be wearing any clothes on top either, right? I would just be here naked going, I'm ready to record. So, maybe there's different levels of trauma.
I was
right?
joking. People, I have pants on. Okay.
Okay, you're wearing pants. I'm going to let them just imagine whether I'm wearing pants or not. We're going to let that just be a mystery today. We're not going to point the camera down, but post COVID days when everybody from the waist down, just so you guys know, because you can't see him, my producer is fanning himself now because I mentioned being naked from the waist down. So we're getting him a little red and a little bothered, and it's too bad he's not on video to see that. But again, everybody can use their visual. So, and I do agree. And I apologize for misstating. I do think we all have different levels of trauma, right? That we perceive. Yes. I think we do have trauma, but that perception of somebody listening saying, well, I haven't been sexually abused, so I don't need any help, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not as obvious to them.
Right.
And I think, for me, the stigma has been lifted. I see the value of therapy all the time, but I know that I still have patients that walk through the door that when I suggest some sort of therapy to deal with emotional, physical, spiritual stress, whatever that is, I know that sometimes I'm still getting pushback of like, but I'm not crazy. And I don't think we need to be crazy to benefit from a therapy like this. And I guess, how do we share with everybody that like, this almost should just be part of your plan, right? To grow Absolutely. And move forward and adapt.
Personally, I would love to see, and it is implemented in some schools, EFT programs for children. Instead of nap time, they tap. How brilliant is that? I think we educate people by offering, okay, if you don't want to try it, look it up. Go to the Harvard website. Been researched, the Harvard Medical School, and deemed, yes, it works. I mean, if you need proof, and I say this with all due respect, it is not a gender thing, okay? Masculine, feminine, not a gender thing. The masculine energy is to fix, keep safe. The feminine energy is to know, intuit, care for, and receive. If that masculine part of you, which helps keep you safe, is in overdrive and you need proof, do your research. Research your therapist. I'm not a therapist. Don't let me pretend I am. I am an advanced emotional freedom technique practitioner. Research your therapist. Research EFT. Ask if any of my clients would allow them, you to talk to them. Look at my website, references galore, truthful references. So you don't have to be at your wit's end to have something help you. My gosh, some people, if they could just lose 5 pounds of body fat or be able to walk up the stairs, right, left, instead of right, because of an injury. Incremental progress is, my gosh, over a lifetime. How much better could we be if we're 1% better a month, 1% better a year? You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be
I love it.
horror.
Yeah, I love it. So let's talk side effects, because this is where this gets fun, right? Because when you work with people, there's some
Yes.
fun things. Yeah, we're gonna go there. There's some fun things that can transpire during a session, aren't there?
Yes.
You got a good
My,
story that way to share with everybody, Wendy?
yes, my cues that your energy is shifting. The number one is people yawn incessantly. I've had people yawn, burp, hum, giggle, cry, fart, their stomachs, blah, blah, just going crazy. And then when we really, really release some big stuff, it's called the freeze response, because we froze during that horrible thing. And when we release it, the person can be in 90-degree heat and literally be shaking with cold. It's literally your human body letting go of the stuck energy. And everything's good. Tears are brilliant. I don't even care if you pass gas.
So, Wendy, here's the $1,000,000 question then. So, if I'm your client and I'm going to pass gas, have you ever passed gas as the practitioner? Do you get a release of anything when you work with your
Oh, I
clients?
burp. I like Barney from The Simpsons. Heck yeah. Because they say what I say, they tap where I tap, unless it's not the truth. And then they change their words. But oh yeah, I get as much from working with my clients as they get from me, because it's called a tail ender. It's like we're talking about your finances and Uncle Bob called you fat at Thanksgiving dinner when you were 9 comes up. There's something in that to work on. So I'll get my own tail enders and I'll be like, I'm going to write that down and work on that later. So absolutely, I've Barney belched before.
So, to speak to, you said something there very interesting that I'd like you to explain a little bit better. And that is when people speak their truth, and sometimes maybe it isn't their truth. What happens in a session that because you're very intuitive, right? And what happens if you sense that somebody is just giving you a line of crap or they're not being truthful to themselves? Like, what do you notice and how do you go around that?
I don't prepare for sessions. I meditate for about 8 minutes beforehand, and whatever comes through me is what comes out of my mouth. And I will call them out flat out. I don't believe what you're saying. Let's test it. And then we close our eyes, take a big deep breath. We say what they just said. Rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. How true is that? Give me a number. And I'll stop them right where they sit and say, is that really true? Do you really believe that? And when we check it, they're like, oh gosh, no, I don't. Oh, who told you that? Where did you learn that? What age did you learn that? And then we peel backwards quite a bit, because I always say that EFT is a sequoia. Yeah, we can pluck some leaves and snip some little branches and saw off some big ones. We want to get to the root of that rascal. So peeling backwards generally helps us get to the root of it.
So if I was going to sit here, let's say I had a really bad day and I'm trying to figure out why it's still irking me a bit, and I just close my eyes, I take a big giant deep breath in and I go, okay, I'm really upset today because whatever, somebody at the office upset me, and I give that a value, right? And I say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe that's a 2 out of 10. So it doesn't have a whole lot of strength, right? So it might not be the interaction with the person at the office that gave me a really hard
Exactly.
time. And I go, maybe I'm really upset at the way I reacted and I behaved based on, right? My eyes are closed and
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about it. And now all of a sudden that's an 8 or a 9. And maybe it's really more about that self reflection, right? As to, can I
Yes.
even find some of my own triggers to work on, and understand
100%.
the importance, right, of the triggers?
Absolutely. You don't even have to go through the setup phrase. This is the part we hit with the setup phrase. You don't even have to go there. I'm upset with this person, but I'm really not, because it was only a 2. I'm upset because I reacted badly. I'm their boss, for Pete's sake. I was rude. Why was I rude? I acted like a petulant child. Why was I so bothered by that? Have I ever having that reaction to something. When did I feel this before? The minute you get to a good question, stop and listen, and just listen. And it might not have it could be Uncle Bob called me fat at Thanksgiving. Doesn't have to make sense to your grown-up brain. And then you like dig around in that. Does that make sense?
It does. So one of the things that I absolutely love about you is, and you said it earlier, is that you will absolutely call somebody out on something, right? You challenge people rather than just wanting to be their best friend. And one of the things that I always felt was really important in finding the right practitioner to work with is that you like them enough to be honest and transparent, but they're
Yeah.
not such a best friend that you just want to make nice, right? And that you're super comfortable.
Right.
Like, I love the idea of being comfortably uncomfortable. And I find that, a lot of good work is done in that mode of being comfortably uncomfortable. Can you just thoughts, comments on being in that space? Is it the correct space to be in when you're working with somebody?
For me, it is what I do and how I do it. I tell them from the beginning, you could tell me that you went to the washroom on your kitchen table last night and I won't judge you. Nothing that comes out of your mouth I'm going to judge, because if I'm judging you, how can I help you? You're paying me to help you. But if I think you're full of it, I'm going to tell you, because I don't care if you like me. I really don't. It's my job to get you through something. And I really do get intuitive hits that I can't explain it. I just know when people need to go somewhere. So I'll ask a question. Blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Tell me about that. And they'll figure it out for themselves. It's not my job to fix anybody. All I do is place my clients in an awareness so that they are in alignment to heal themselves. And I know that sounds all artsy fartsy and whatever, but it's a truth.
Well, the farts
have
are
a
clearly
skill.
important when it comes to EFT, Wendy. So it's okay if it sounds artsy fartsy.
But you know what I mean.
We
It's
may be
people say,
spelling
"Oh,
gap.
thank you, thank you, thank you." It's not me. I have a skill, but it's the process of EFT and interrupting that electrical signal in the body and that automatic path that the brain waves take. And it's getting them conscious of their own stuff so they can heal themselves.
I love it. So we're going to take a quick break and be right back. But on that break, regardless of what you're doing, grabbing something to drink, using the washroom, walking the dog, it better be a fast walk, you guys. The breaks aren't that long. And we're going to listen to a couple of sponsors that are super important to me. But while you're doing that, maybe make a conscious effort to say to yourself, is there something that I could be working on, no matter how traumatic it feels in that moment, that might make sense to pursue EFT. All right, you guys, we'll be right back. Take a quick listen to our sponsors. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Stop. Hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. We're back. And before we go into one of my favorite parts of our podcast, the rapid fire questions that Wendy doesn't know we're going to ask, real quick, Wendy, I know there was a little bit of a story when Julie, my executive assistant, asked you for a thumbnail picture of yourself to use for advertising for the podcast. There was a little bit of feedback that you had given. Can you share with us that story?
Yeah. My mom passed from cancer, and you know the phrase, if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. And if you can't crawl, find someone to carry you. That was my mother. We had the most brilliant relationship. And before she passed, she was quite poor. She gave each of me and my sibs a teeny bit of money and said, you can't do bills with this. She passed. So I thought about it. And my mom kind of didn't step outside her comfort zone. And I thought, what is going to elevate me outside of my comfort zone? So I scripted and blocked a photo shoot, and I did a professional photo shoot, and it really made me uncomfortable. And I was like, woohoo, thinking about your mug. So that was it.
So even those that teach us how to get out of our comfort zone, get out of our comfort zone. It's super important.
Yes.
So
it's really important.
Okay, Wendy, here we go. You ready? So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I think we've got 5 of them. First thing that comes to mind, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm really just curious how you'll answer them. You ready for this?
Yep.
All right, here we go. If you could change snow from being white to any color in the world, what color would you make it?
Red.
Red. That was quick. You know, red is a manic color, Wendy.
I love red. Red is sanguine. Red is blood. Red is sex. Red is beautiful.
Perfect. I love the justification. That makes perfect sense. Okay, next question. You can only have one type of drink for the rest of your life. Sweet, sour, or strong?
Water.
Oh, is that
just
sweet,
water.
sour, or strong? I don't know that falls in any of those categories, does it?
Sour. Pickle juice, sour.
Sour water. Sour water.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take it. All right. Everybody always wants to know what famous person you would have lunch with if you could. I truly don't care what famous person you'd eat with. I want to know what the meal would be.
Oh, God. Beef bourguignon, crispy, flaky, baguette, delicious oaky Cabernet. Oh, yes. Yes.
Perfect. All right. This one's a little timely only because at the time we're recording this, it is during the Olympics. When people will hear this, it will be way after. But if you could be an Olympic athlete and participate in any sport and excel at it, what sport would you pick?
Figure skating.
Awesome. And last, this is going to be the hardest one. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
What was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
Hanging out with you. I love you.
I love you back. Well, you guys, that was super easy. I think I'm going to go eat dinner now after that description of the meal that you're going to eat. Wendy, do me a favor and share with everybody, how do they learn more about EFT? How do they find you? How do we reach out?
Okay. You can email me at insideouttraining@icloud.com. And in the little header, just put EFT. That's INSIDEOUTTRAINING@icloud.com.
I love that. So please reach out. Wendy is just a wealth of information. The technique is phenomenal. The person is even better. I'm so happy that you were here with me today. You know, if you want to find out more about what I'm up to, you can find me at drsindyspeaks.com. If you're interested in the book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness in the Bottom of a Chemo Bag, check me out on Amazon or wherever you buy your favorite books. And I have to tell you, Wendy, that my favorite thing about the podcast, twofold. One, always hanging out with you because I love the intelligent conversations that we have, and also just being able to understand the EFT a little bit more so that I can share that knowledge with other people so that they do reach out, they find you, and we all get to heal together. And at the end of the day, I hope that the time we have spent together have left all of you listening positively altered.